Good afternoon. It is day 20 of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs. My apologies, I'm coming to you a little bit later than where I would normally start. So I'm going to get you up to speed from this morning till now as quickly as I can. It's not going to be as detailed this time around because I don't want to have you sitting here for hours. But here we go. Judge Aaron Subramaniam denied the defense team's motion for a mistrial. The defense submitted a move for a mistrial over the weekend. It was based on the testimony of Brianna Bongolan, which the defense attorney said was demonstrably false. I don't know how they thought that or were able to prove it, given that the defense hasn't started their leg of the case yet, but Subramaniam denied prosecutors' motion to recall expert witness Don Hughes for further expert testimony. Earlier in this trial, Hughes, a clinical and forensic psychologist, testified in general terms about the behavior of people who are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and traumatic stress. Um, if you recall, when she testified, she said that she was not familiar with this case in particular and that she was not testifying regarding the details of this case, just giving people a general understanding of abuse victims, etc., and explaining some terms so that the jury would be on one accord with everyone and be able to weigh the information. The defense went on to explain their mistrial motion accusing the witness of perjury, specifically Brianna Bongolan. Um, and Bongolan is the individual who testified that Combs had held her over a 17-story balcony and threw her onto the balcony furniture at Cassie Ventura's apartment in Los Angeles in September of 2016. I would say that's jumping the gun a bit. Maybe wait until, I don't know, defense, you start calling your own witnesses and you can kind of prove that this didn't happen. But you haven't even, you know what? From there, Jane took the stand and defense attorney Tenny Garagas began cross examination. Tenny Garagas established with Jane that they've met several times. Jane is one of Diddy's accusers who is testifying under the pseudonym of Jane during this time. And she stated previously that she dated Combs from 2021 to 2024, right before he was arrested. Um, Jane acknowledged that she feels that her attorney, whose fees Combs is covering, is representing her well, despite Combs being the one paying for her attorney. Uh, Garagas asked Jane if she regretted a lot of the choices she made throughout the relationship with Combs, and she said, and I quote, "I resent him for leading me to the lifestyle he led me to." Jane also said, and I quote, "He was my baby." Uh, and she went on to say that she wasn't comfortable with the hotel nights. And Jane also said, "I'm breaking all of my own boundaries just to make him feel extremely loved," when further asked about their relationship. Uh, the sexual encounters with or without entertainers often involved role play with Combs, according to Jane's testimony when asked about it. Jane said that she was willing to get back together with Combs after times that they stopped talking. And if you remember, the expert on this said that this happens a lot because abuse victims feel like there are no other options, that they're not worthy, etc., etc. Combs would uplift me, Jane said, when asked what she loved about him. And she did not deny that under direct examination also. Jane also said that she felt like she only met 10% of her earning potential while dating Combs. If you remember from her testimony last week, she stated that she always had to be on call for him with her hair a certain way, her nails a certain way, dressed a certain way, smelling a certain way, even to the point where he wanted her to tan. James and Combs did not want any hotel night information to leak, according to what she said under cross examination. But if you remember yesterday, there was at least one time that was brought up where Combs had threatened to release tapes from of her during one of their hotel nights because he had it in his mind, because she didn't want to deal with him anymore, that she was going to try to blackmail him. We'll have more updates in part two that'll be linked in the comments. Part two. Tenny Garagos showed the jury text messages and audio messages between Jane and Combs from March 2023 after the Turks and Caicos trip. She previously testified that during the trip, Combs sprung an entertainer and a hotel night on her, prompting an argument that threw things off between them for days. The two traded loving messages and voice messages about how much fun they had. In Combs's voice note, he said he loved her. Combs also mentioned Jane's contract on the audio recording, which Jane testified was a reference to the love contract that they just brokered, which led to Combs renting a $10,000 per month home for her. The jury heard an upbeat recorded response Jane sent to Combs, telling him that she had so much fun on the trip and loved him and felt closer to him. Combs used rent money as kind of a little tool, according to Jane's testimony. Jane confirmed that when she moved into her rented home in April 2023, Combs paid $40,000 up front to cover the security deposit and the rent for the first month and the last month. Tenny Garagos pointed out that the landlord already possessed several months of rent payments in case Combs ever decided to stop paying the rent. Garagos suggested Combs indicated that he was also open to paying 3 more months of Jane's rent when they were about to break up. But let us not forget, Jane had previously testified that when reading about Cassie Ventura's lawsuit against Combs, she felt like it was telling her own story. And we know that when Cassie finally called it quits, Diddy contacted Cassie's parents to reimburse him a certain amount. So, was this really good faith? Combs talked early of polyamorous dating, but I wanted him to be mine, according to Jane's testimony. Jane said, I didn't sign up to date a man that was in a public relationship. Combs and Young Miami had a very public relationship that appeared to be monogamous and would post each other on social media, but Jane said her relationship with Combs was very private. And anyone who has followed Combs and Young Miami for a while, there's some obvious overlap between Jane's relationship and Young Miami's relationship with Combs. And from yesterday's testimony, there were multiple times where Jane picked up through social media posts that he was out with other women, and he never denied it, according to the testimony that we have to go on thus far. Combs wasn't taking care of himself, Jane says, as defense suggests she knew of addiction early. On their first trip to Turks and Caicos, Jane suggested that Combs go to a rehabilitation center in Thailand when she realized how the drugs he was taking affected him, according to her testimony. On the flight to Turks and Caicos, she noticed his shaky hands, eyes, teeth, and his coloring seemed off. The court then took a quick break. And then Jane was back on the stand. Jane said Combs was more affectionate than usual during their hotel night. That seemed to be, his yum. Jane was okay with hotel night video recordings, she admitted in cross-examination. Jane confirmed that she was okay with the hotel nights being filmed and that Combs told her the videos were just for the two of them. You put on a good show for him in these videos because you knew he would watch them back, defense attorney Tenny Garagos asked. Yes, was Jane's response. Jane says that there were rare occasions where the hotel nights ended early. Jane confirmed that there were a few occasions when Combs ended a hotel night early when she vocalized that she wanted to stop. That may be true, but we've heard more than one instance where even when she vomited, he just told her to get back to it and sometimes offered her additional pharmaceutical enhancements to get through them. We also heard about this tactic that he did with Ventura also. And to me, it sounds like a bit more love bombing to get her to continue for the next time around, seeing how she kept saying she didn't want to do it again, and he would spring them on her or schedule them or get her to schedule them again. Defense asked Combs's reaction to Jane crying after two hotel nights. Tenny Garagas revisited two occasions in which Jane had testified that she cried after a hotel night. On one occasion at the beginning of her relationship with Combs, Jane cried when Combs was going to leave her soon after a hotel night, per her testimony. When asked, Jane confirmed that when she asked Combs to stay with her to comfort her, he rearranged his plans so he could. Once again, love bombing. On another occasion, toward the middle of their relationship, Jane recalled she cried in the shower with Combs after a hotel night. Garagos asked Jane to confirm that Combs was high on ecstasy at the time. Jane confirmed Combs said he was too high to see her cry and said, "You're gonna ruin my high." So that confirms that every other time was love bombing. Because at the end of the day, we're learning through this trial, he only cares about him. Shocker. We'll have more updates in part 3, which will be linked in the comments. Part 3. Jane described her difficult relationship with Combs' then chief of staff, and that would be Christina Karam, or KK. Tenny Garagos read messages between Jane and KK, who was Combs' chief of staff at the time, around the times Combs asked Jane to bring drugs to Miami for him. Jane previously testified that she spoke with Karam on the phone, and Karam told her it was fine and instructed Jane to put the drugs in her checked luggage. The messages read aloud did not include Karam saying that, but Jane maintained that she spoke on the phone with Karam about it. Garagos asked if Karam would fly on Combs' private plane when she traveled with him. Jane said she assumed so, but she wasn't sure. She wasn't the chief of staff, but okay. The defense, their whole job right now is to poke holes in Jane's testimony, and that's what they're trying to do. Jane also answered questions about reaching out to entertainers. Tenny Garagos asked Jane about her interactions with certain entertainers who would be used during the hotel nights with Combs, and about which ones she liked and reached out to for the encounters. Then court adjourned for a lunch break, reconvened around 1:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Jane said that she doesn't think Combs' workers saw them with entertainers during deliveries. Shortly before the lunch break, Jane said she didn't think any of Combs' employees saw that she and Combs were with an entertainer at times when they delivered cash to a hotel room. Jane said she didn't think the employees ever came inside the hotel rooms in the middle of a sexual encounter. Jane also testified that she didn't believe that KK, Combs' then chief of staff, knew about the hotel nights with entertainers. She also confirmed that Combs specifically didn't want KK to know when he was partying because she disapproved and wanted him to focus more on business. If she disapproved, to me, just me, seems like little Miss KK knew what was going down. And given that he didn't have a problem mixing business with pleasure, I don't know. But I'm going to leave that to when Miss KK takes the stand, if she does. Do keep in mind that Jane's testimony is critical to the sex trafficking allegations, because there was a lot of not just crossing state borders, but international borders as well. And as of now, the judge is back on the bench. Do keep in mind that today court is expected to adjourn for the day at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and defense attorney Tenny Garagos said that she is on track to finish her cross-examination of Jane on Thursday, with plenty of time for prosecutor Maureen Comey to question Jane on redirect and get Jane off the stand by the end of the day Thursday. Previously, the judge said that the court would run from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Now, the defense did ask Jane about 2021 text messages to Combs and an adult performer. Jane testified under cross-examination, continued after the lunch break, and Tenny Garagos read aloud some of Jane's text messages around Halloween of 2021. Jane texted Combs that she wanted to see him, and Combs responded that he had a rough day and wanted her to lead tonight. Jane responded that they should freshen up, have a drink, and see where the night takes them. Combs said he didn't feel like being around people, according to the text messages that were read in court. On the stand, Jane confirmed that they had a hotel night after those messages. So I guess him not wanting to be around people is just he didn't want to be in public. That's what I'm guessing. That's all the updates that I have for now. When more updates come in, I will bring them to you. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section.